Happy New Year, it's 2026. Thank you for joining me once again for another year of humble running. What better time to start rummaging through your sock drawer or sock drawers in my case. Perhaps some of you have the same setup as I do, taking a look at what socks you have across those one or two sock drawers. And maybe it's time for a little bit of a refresher in terms of the sock options that you have for your runs. What I'm gonna do today is just go through the contents of both of my sock drawers here. I'm gonna talk about every single sock that I use across multiple brands, different styles of socks, different materials, the socks that I actually use, and actually a couple of new ones that I will be using once the weather does cool down a little bit. Again, I talked about it's a crazy winter here in Idaho, at least here in the Boise area. Very warm, I'm out here. I'm gonna be sweating. I might have to change my sweater in a little bit. But anyway, got a bunch of options here on the table in front of me. If you watch any of my videos, I like to highlight in the description all of the kit that I'm wearing in each particular video, especially the socks. And sometimes I'll even throw up a little screenshot of the socks that I do have on my feet if I believe it is of particular interest for the particular model of shoe that I'm running in. Sometimes certain socks, as you know, work better in certain types of shoes, and you could vary the fit within your shoe with a certain type of sock, and also you could enhance the grip or the feel within a shoe, and of course on your run itself, have a better run based on the sock choice that you make. So I made some notes here on my computer. I'm gonna go through each and every one on the table here, and we'll just talk it through right here. First one I have in front of me is the Smartwool. I believe this is officially called the targeted cushion model here. Getting windy here. This is called the Reflections print. This is actually one of my favorite socks because I just like a tie-dye print. It kind of like fits my style, I would say. And the variations in color here kind of goes with everything. Sometimes I like to make it look good, make it match on the run with the shoes that I'm running in. This is targeted cushion, so you have a little bit of extra in the heel coming up towards the Achilles and also in the toe box. Otherwise, it is a mid to lightweight material throughout the rest of the sock. Most of these socks you'll see here are going to be a crew height. As a trail runner, that's usually preferable. I feel a little bit exposed when I'm wearing, say, a quarter sock, or no-show is pretty much a no-go for me on the trails. It is actually good for a little bit of protection. Sometimes you're scraping against stuff, little branches and stuff, and it's okay if you get scraped up in your upper legs, but then around by your ankles, it's a little bit uncomfortable. So most of these are gonna be a crew height. I like this, again, for the color and the targeted padding. Now, targeted padding is something that you could use. I talk about heel volume in a lot of my shoe reviews. A lot of shoes tend to have an overly spacious heel, and this is something you'll be familiar with if you know that you have a narrow heel. So a model like this is gonna be pretty much a go-to if you have a narrow heel and you're typically coming across brands or models of shoes that have more volume in the heel than your actual heel bone can fill up. So this is a good way, even if you don't find a heel cup of a shoe overly spacious, you could actually, if you want to have a snugger feel, maybe perhaps you would like to fill up the space within the heel cup without, or as opposed to, tensioning down your laces. So that's another way to do it. You want to snug down those laces to make sure your heel gets seated in there. You could eliminate some of that or a degree of that tension if you just went with a kind of padded heel cup in your sock itself. So you don't have to rely on that heel tension from the laces. Padded toe box is always good. Again, kind of a classic model. I think it was called PhD cushion back in the day, and I do have to bring this out right away. This is one of the original Smartwool. I believe it's a PhD model. Some of you may have this print out there. Took a little damage here. I got a hole here. I got a hole somewhere else in the bottom here. But otherwise, good thing about these Smartwool socks, they do tend to be indestructible, I find. So these obviously somewhat destructible. I have some holes in them there, but I can't bring myself to get rid of them because they've held on so long. So this is one I wear around the house sometimes, and then if I do end up going out for a run, I'll just keep them on and run in them. They still perform pretty well even with a couple of holes there. So let me know down in the comments if you're a fan of this original PhD print from, I don't know if it's a PhD print, but moving on, let's start with some kind of standard socks. I have some Jogology socks that they sent me. They sent me these socks and I was kind of like, okay, they just seem, you know, they come in black for one thing. I have a gray model. They also sent me a white model. So basic colors, no crazy tie-dye prints. I like to spice it up a little with the socks on the trail sometimes when I run. You'll see that in my videos. So these were kind of basic. I didn't think too much of them. I thought it was kind of just like a regular sock. I mentioned this to the people at Jogology over at TRE, is that this is one sock that tends to migrate, kind of similar to the Smartwool socks. They migrate from my upstairs bedroom sock drawer, my everyday socks that I wear when I am not running. I do spend some time not running. And then I have my ultra running cave in the basement, and I have a separate, more running specific sock drawer. And these Jogology socks tend to migrate back and forth, and sometimes I have to look, where did I leave those socks? Because they're just comfortable everyday socks, and they are comfortable on the run. I would say they have a similar level of padding as you find in the heel and the toe box here, but they continue it, I think, a little bit further. It just seems a little bit more of a cushion. It comes over the top of the big toe side more in this Jogology sock. The heel may be a touch more cushioned, and it may extend a little bit further under the foot. The top, you have some ventilation panels built in. I believe they call it also an arrow heel design, where you can see these stretch panels and they kind of wrap around the heel cup, so it keeps the sock like really snugged across the top of your ankle and keeps that cushioning in place under your heel. So this is similar in level of cushioning to the Smartwool sock. Again, if I want to fill up a little volume, or I want a little more comfort, a little more softness underfoot, I go with this Jogology sock. It's a little bit lower than the crew height of this one, but I find it's plenty high enough for me. Again, I'm not, kind of looks weird maybe with the all black, but I do like the gray model there. One big difference here is they do have a anatomical design. So you have a left and a right sock here. I feel like even though a shoe that I really like, a shoe that is super durable such as Smartwool, I feel like if you're gonna make a performance sock, I feel like it needs to be anatomical. I mean, your left and your right foot are not the same. Your left shoe and your right shoe are not the same. It strikes me as kind of weird that socks would be the same left or right. Maybe it doesn't make as much a difference. Of course, it doesn't make as much a difference as the shoe that you're putting on your foot. But when it comes down to it, the anatomical design is typically the way to go. And most of the socks you'll see on here do have an anatomical design. So Jogology is a great option. It's a dry max material, dry fit material. Pretty, it doesn't seem as warm as it looks. It feels kind of thick in hand, but I never notice my foot being overly warm in this shoe. It will tend to hold a little bit of water. It's a thicker material, but for drier running and keeping your foot nice and cushioned, Jogology is a good way to go here. Let's move on down here. I'm gonna go with perhaps my top running sock brand that I've come across within the last year or two, and that is Sidas. I'm just gonna go down the line here. Let's see, I'm gonna go off the cuff here. I'm gonna start with the Run Anatomic Comfort model. You may see this in my video. I may accidentally call it Run Anatomic Cushion. That's a mistake. I think it says in here, Run Anatomic Comfort. So, well, actually, let's start with the thinner model here. This is the Run Anatomic model, and you may have seen billboards or ads or stuff popping up in your feed with Jim Walmsley and maybe Hayden Hawks running in the sock. That's how I came across the brand. Good to sponsor top athletes like that, companies that do that. Jim Walmsley, I know him to be a bit of a gearhead, apparel, gear, shoe head when it comes to this kind of thing. So I trust his thoughts. If he's gonna run some of the races that he does in this brand of sock, I'm gonna pay attention. So brands, it's a good thing to sponsor athletes in that way. That's where I first came across Sidas, decided to try out this sock, and I really liked it. I thought it was great. They have this grip band here. What exactly do they call it? The grip strip. And what it is a kind of grippy, silicone-y band. Some of these have two, which I'll go over, but it's in the front, and that gives you a little extra grab around the toes so your foot doesn't slide as much. To the degree that helps or not is debatable, but I definitely find it is helpful in the model that has two of those strips, which I'll show just in a second here. Any little bit helps, and the way that they weave this in, there's no seams anywhere in the front or the backside of this gripper strip. So at a minimum, you don't feel it at all. On the pro side, it will give you some extra grip, but again, without the seams, you don't notice it's there. So if it's not doing anything in a helpful sense, you'll still not notice it on the run. But this is a nice high sock. It has a little bit of a kind of front here to it, which gives a little extra protection in the front of the shoe. That may have a little different style thing, but I find that that's not loose or anything, doesn't flop around. It gives it a different kind of a look. All Sidas socks are anatomical, and if you're trying to figure out which is which without like looking inside of the sock band and all that, the Sidas logo is always going to go on the outside. So this is my left sock, this is my right sock here. This is a thinner type of sock. You don't have any extra cushioning in the toe and the heel, so when you're shoe choice is dialed, the fit of your particular shoe is dialed, this is one that you might want to reach for. Moving on from Run Anatomic to Run Anatomic Comfort, it's essentially a similar sock here. Throughout most of the sock, it is probably the same thickness of material. You have the gripper band this time near the heel, and I think that's because they added a bit more of that, it's called the comfort model, comfort cushion in the toe box. That's the big difference with this shoe. This gray area here is a thicker area of padding. So if you find you like that little extra cushion under the ball of the foot, around the toes, maybe you get some rubbing at any point inside of your shoes, then this is give you a little extra protection around the toes. And I like that it extends to the base on the medial side of the big toe there. So it gives you a little extra padding under there when you're pushing off into the big toe. I think that's a cool feature. And this is another one, this gray area. You see how they have this similar heel design. They call it arrow heel in Jogology, but I don't know if they call it something particular. An ankle support strap here where you have this gripper band and then you have a structured support that goes, see this gray line, to around the top and around the bottom, around the heel cup. And again, that's a feature that just locks the sock onto your foot. And this extra heel padding, this is another one where I'll choose, similar to Jogology, similar to the Smartwool, when I want to feel an extra level of snugness inside a heel cup, whether the shoe is a little loose or I just want to have that dialed in heel fit. I'll pick this one, especially if I want to also fill up a little bit of extra toe space with this extra. Sometimes I'll size up, typically more than most runners. I'll typically run a US 10 and I'll want to have that 3/4, maybe to even a full thumbs width, depending on the run distance and duration for my trail running needs. A lot of times that'll give me a little extra width in the toe box. So this is a good way to make up for that extra space if you do happen to have it in any of your shoes. You just have a little extra padding in the toe box, a little extra in the heel, and the rest of it is quite breathable, similar to the anatomic model. Take a look at a couple of other ones. This is called their Trail Protect model. This is similar to the comfort cushion model there, except they add a little bit of ankle padding. These are enhanced cushion areas around your ankle bones. So if you tend to knock your ankles in one way or another, I tend to kick the inside of my right ankle with my left shoe from time to time, just due to my gait. It happens all the time with me. Sometimes I'll find holes in my socks in the right ankle, and that's just my running gait, whatever it is. So this gives you a little extra protection there. So if that's something that you deal with, maybe one leg or the other, or maybe both, tend to like kick each other depending on where you're throwing your feet on the trails, maybe technical terrain, you get a little, wacky with your footsteps. This is something you might want to look for. This is called the Trail Protect model. Similar padding in the toes. I don't think it seems to be a little bit thinner than the toe box in the Comfort model, and the heel seems to also be a little bit thinner, the cushion, but the rest is the same. You also get a wider grip band here. So there are slight variations in Sidas models. I like having kind of a smorgasbord of different models, sometimes different shoes. Sometimes I want all the heel padding. Sometimes I feel like I'm sliding a little. Sometimes I want that thick extra grip in there. It's good to have the full lineup here. Let's see. Moving on, this is called the Trail Ultra model. So this is similar to the Trail Protect in that you get that enhanced ankle padding there if you kick one or the other of your ankles. But the big difference is if you don't want that extra cushioning in the toes. Some runners may like the thinnest sock possible, so this is again another variation that I'm talking about. You like the heel padding, you like the anatomical fit of Sidas, you like that ankle wrap. Another main feature of this one is you have a dual grip strap. I think one shoe that I liked in this was the S-Lab Pulsar 4 from Salomon. Check out my video review of that one. There's no insole in that shoe, and I felt like I needed a little extra grab inside of that shoe. I think I had done a few test runs, tried different socks, and when I paired it with this one, I just felt great. So you have this sticky, it's really, you could feel it in your hand, quite sticky here in the front of the heel and under the forefoot there, and that I feel like really holds the foot in. It's really nice, and again, not noticeable on the inside of the sock against your foot. So again, difference with this one, thinner all around. You don't have extra padding in the toe box, you don't have extra padding in the heel, but you do get that protection on the ankle bones, which is unobtrusive if you want the double grip, you want a thin layer all around your foot inside the shoe. Maybe you want this or maybe you don't. It's not obtrusive if you don't care for this or don't need this. I don't think it adds anything in a detrimental way, so another good option here. Next interesting model from Sidas, they have these T-free models, and this was something that struck me as extremely interesting. This is called their T-free Trail, and this is the T-free Run. I actually ran the Munich Marathon in this sock. What it is it's like a toe sock, but you only have a separate area for your big toe. So this is the road model, or I guess you can run it, it's a sock. This is their particular trail model. The trail model has a little bit of extra cushioning, I think, on the toe. And again, you have those ankle pads here in the trail version, and you have the wider grip here. The road model still has that grip band. It's a little bit thinner. I think the sock overall seems to be a little bit thinner, especially up front here, and you don't have the ankle protection in the road shoe. You don't have to worry about that. Typically in a road, you may kick your ankles, but you're not kicking your ankle with the hard edge of a trail running lug. So in that regard, you might not necessarily need that ankle padding, but you can run in one of these shoes on the road if that is something that affects you. So I ran the Munich Marathon in this sock. I feel like it's an interesting fit. I mean, you know that you're trying to direct the power from your big toe on the road, on the run. That is where your power comes from at your toe off. When you're talking about toe off, you're talking about your big toe. You're not talking about the front edge of maybe one of your other toes or being on all of your toes going forward. You want to direct that power to your big toe joint. And this is a way to kind of isolate it. It's something to try out, I think. It's something interesting, and one thing I'll talk about in regards to the trail, I find myself taping my feet in long ultras, or sometimes even mid-distance or lower ultras, like maybe say a 50K. Sometimes I'll do some zonal taping depending on the condition of my feet at that particular time or the shoe that I'm running in. Maybe I'll tape the balls of my feet, and a lot of times I end up wrapping my big toe just to avoid that kind of edge blistering on the inside of your big toe, especially over longer ultras. So I use Leuco tape. Once you tape your big toe, the tape on the toe tends to start rubbing on the next toe. Then you tape the next toe, and then that tape starts rubbing on your middle toe. So then you end up taping more toes than you really need to in order to avoid the friction and the blistering from the tape from the toe that you wanted to tape initially. If it's a scenario where you just want to protect your big toe a little bit, maybe you even want to tape it, or maybe this is the case where you get rubbing next to your big toe, but your other small toes don't bother you at all, this could be an option. It's definitely something to try. The toe socks, which I will get into in just a moment here, those will expand your toes in the toe box. They feel great in particular shoes, but sometimes it'll expand your toes too much where you'll feel cramped in a shoe when you don't want to. So maybe you want to protect your toes with that individually wrapped toe material, but you don't like that it cramps your foot up in the front of the shoe. So something like this may be the way to go. This is their trail model. Again, this is their road model. I've run these in a few trail races for sure. Let's move on down. Sticking with standard socks before I get into my toe socks here. This is the Darn Tough Ultra Lightweight. You'll see this in a lot of my reviews. When I just want a no nonsense, no padding shoe. Sometimes when I have a tight shoe, maybe a shoe that's a little bit too small even, or just a very snug lockdown fit for maybe shorter runs, this is one that I will reach for. Also road runs where I know I don't need to worry about as much of protection of my feet, cushion. Maybe on trail runs, you're gonna get a lot more friction. Your foot is moving around a lot more in the shoe. For road running, there's less of that. You'll generally know if a shoe is gonna give you irritation or not pretty early in your testing of that shoe, and you're just more or less going in a straight line. So a lot of times you could go with a thinner sock or less variation in zonal cushioning depending on the heel fit of a road shoe in particular. So this is similar to the Run Anatomic sock from Sidas, similar in the level of thickness. Again, they call this their ultra lightweight. You don't have extra padding in the heel or the toe box. This is just a basic thin sock that gets the job done. Darn Tough is great. They have 100% guarantee. Sometimes I'll get holes in my sock, like I said, and I feel like one of them opened up a hole pretty soon after I got it. This was long ago, and I did end up returning a pair of socks, and they sent me no questions asked return pair. That's the only time I've ever done that, but I wanted to, I think, kind of see what they would say or about it, but they just 100% guarantee. This is merino wool here, 42% merino on this one. There's another, am I wearing it right now? Oh, I am wearing it. This is also a Darn Tough sock here. This is a thicker one here. You can see it has thicker padding around the heel, thicker padding around the forefoot. The whole bottom of the foot is cushioned. This is a very thick sock. If I have shoes where I definitely need to fill up a little bit of volume, this is a sock that I'll wear, and it's also a little bit warm. Winter running, it's not warm right now, but when it does get cold, this is a sock I'll reach to keep my feet warm when I have a shoe that has the space to accommodate it. In comparison to the Smartwool sock, similar level of cushioning, but there's a little less of that thickness under the middle of the foot in this sock. This one is a little thicker throughout, but again, I don't typically run in this shoe unless it's very cold or I need to fill up a little bit of space. Let's move on in to a sock you've seen in my EX330 Kalos Fuga shoe. This is the CEP Core Run Vertical Mid. This is a compression sock, medium compression here. This is another one with nice padding throughout the heel, and it has that similar setup where it has additional padding around the medial side, but this one's a little bit different because it gives you some padding down the lateral side too, and I thought that was pretty interesting on the run. I could feel that extra cushion there, so if perhaps the outside of your foot, maybe you land on that area and maybe you would want a little extra cushion on the outside, this is one of the models that kind of really leans into that. It has a little bit of light compression around the ankle. You could feel a little bit more kind of tightness to this sock compared to a normal sock. It felt good on the run. There's no merino. A lot of these models, not the Sidas ones, but of course the Darn Tough socks, Smartwool of course, and some of the other models do have merino wool in. This is 87% polyamide. Ergonomic toe box, again, left and right socks. This is another one if you want to have kind of locked in, more cushion filling up your shoe, maybe a longer ultra distance kind of shoe model like the EX330 that I did test. I have the same model here from CEP, but this is a taller model, so I have not run in this yet. It has not been cold, unbelievable, but this is not necessarily a cold weather sock. This is more, has that compression sock look, which is not for me out on the run. I would definitely wear this under some long pants, which I have been running in. So just by chance I have not run in this, but it is the same sock on foot as this one, but you just get a little bit of compression going up the calf here. CEP right here. Okay, let's move on to toe socks. Injinji. First, we've got Liner Crew wool socks. This is a liner sock. I use this sock when, again, similarly, when I have a tight fitting shoe or something for shorter distances where I don't want any extra padding. Sometimes I'll just wear the liner by itself. The liner, again, can be designed to be worn underneath a thicker sock, perhaps for winter running, or a thinner sock if you want to reduce friction. Where did I have those other socks? I don't know where I put those here. Oh, here they are. This is my, or has been my typical 100-mile ultra setup. I have the cotton Injinji socks here. This is the liner sock. This one is merino wool. I kind of like, I don't know, I feel like the merino wool is very nice when you know it's going to be dry. It feels super smooth, everyday usage, it's great. But a lot of the merino options, I feel like when they get super soaked, they can kind of hold that water for a while. So I don't necessarily like racing in a merino sock. This is a similar cotton sock from Injinji. These are all beat up, but I'll wear a liner sock, and then this is a right sock. This sock is even thinner, super thin, thinner than the ultra lightweight Darn Tough model here. This is perhaps the thinnest sock you can get. Maybe there's kind of stocking type things that you could get, but I'll wear the right sock on top of the liner sock, and that'll give me a good setup. I find these two exact socks, the right sock kind of glides over the top of the inner cotton liner layer pretty well, and that just eliminates any friction points where it would be your foot, then sock, then shoe. It will be your foot, then liner sock, then over sock here, ultra lightweight, then the shoe material. So there's just more layers of material to slide against each other rather than your foot getting any type of irritation. So this is a setup I go with for 100 milers, long ultras in particular, but the merino line is another option for kind of everyday runs, or if you wanted just that merino feel on foot. More Injinji socks here. We have, of course, the Courtney sock. This is Injinji's pretty standard mid-weight sock. It's mid-weight, cushioned heel, cushioned toes here, breathable panels on top of the foot. This is her, I think she probably has newer designs by now, but again, I like the tie-dye design, so these are super cool. Love those. Moving up in, not moving up in weight, moving down a little in weight. This is Run Lightweight Crew from Injinji. So again, a lot of this is going to vary depending on the shoe that you're running in. I love to wear a toe sock, Creepers or Injinji. I'll talk about Creepers in a moment here. When I'm wearing a Topo, when I'm wearing an Ultra, when I'm wearing a Keen shoe now, I just find that I have extra space in the toe box, and it feels nice when you have a toe sock in that extra wide toe box. I just feel like if you have the space to let the toes be free, I don't think it makes sense to squeeze them into a regular sock inside a toe box that is overly voluminous, depending on the model. So, but if you have one that is maybe say a tighter Topo or a tighter, more snug fitting Ultra shoe or Keen shoe, this is a lightweight model. Then we're moving on to thickness. Here's another, this is a mid-weight model we got here. This is similar to the Courtney sock. Actually, this one's a little thicker than the Courtney sock here. Then we move on to more thicker. These are the same. This is a new color here. These are your mid-weight merino wool socks. These are great hiking socks, great winter socks. If you're wearing winter boots, I hope you size your winter boots to have a little extra space in the toe box, because that does keep your feet warmer. When your boots are tight or your shoes are tight, that actually makes your feet colder. So hopefully your winter boots have some space in them, and it is just, it feels so plush, so soft, so great to have the space to fit a mid-weight merino wool Injinji sock here. So love these socks. I've run these, I think my Topo Ultra Venture, certainly Topo Vistas I've been running in this sock. Just feels great. So these are merino wool options here. They do have one over the calf option here. This is not the merino wool option. This is new option from Injinji. I was gonna wear these out in Germany, but I didn't realize these were the over the calf ones. It is too hot for these right now. It's probably close to 50 right now. It's unbelievable. But if you wanna wear one of those shoes in the wintertime and you are wearing long pants, sometimes I'll wear a half tight and then I'll wear a long, thin running pant, like from On or those rabbit runners that I've been talking about. But then maybe you want to keep your calves a little bit warm and you're wearing a pant anyway. You don't want to look too weird running around in socks like this. So I'll wear these underneath. Not yet, because again, it hasn't been cold, but I like to wear taller socks in that scenario. And these will definitely come into usage if it ever does get cold around here. Next model coming from Injinji. This is a split toe model. Talked about these T-free models from Sidas. This is not a running sock in particular. They call this out specifically as a kind of a lifestyle, something to wear for recovery or with sandals. It's 100% cotton, so they don't have that, or actually there's a little stretch to it. So mainly a cotton sock, but this is mainly a comfort casual sock, maybe post-run sock if you have with your sandals here. I do have these Hoka ORA Primo EXT Mules here. They call these Mules. I just learned about this actually, and this is a good pairing. I've worn these with my Norda sandals. I have some from Roll Recovery. I like these out in the yard. I've never had a mule sandal before because I don't know, it just always had slides, and I'd never heard of the term mule actually. I had to look it up, but that's what it is. It has a dual layer EVA construction here, softer up here, a little maybe firmer over here for your stability when you're kind of walking around. Suede upper, premium metal clasp here, which you can kind of tighten just a little bit if you're a little bit oversized in this. And this does kind of wrap around the foot really well. It does also have an insole in here, which is a little bit different. I've been testing regular slides recently. Again, the Norda one. I have a new one from Roll Recovery. This is a little bit more of a shoe type of model. And now that it is sort of winter right here, I've been using this to go in and out of the house on particular runs where I go in the van and stuff. I've been going in and out in this mule. Can I still call it a slide? Is a mule a type of slide? I don't know. Anyway, this is good for warmer weather. Taking out the trash even when it's 20 degrees at night. I thought it was a little weird when I got it. I gotta tell you the truth. I've had flip-flops, I've had slides in my time. I've never had a shoe like this, and I was like, I don't know, it looks a little weird. I don't know about what am I gonna do with this. Like, it's kind of like a shoe, but it's not a shoe, but it's not a slide. Honestly, in the winter or kind of fall or that kind of weather, I find myself using this a lot. So anyway, split toe comfort sock here. Again, maybe you don't want the full toe sock experience, but letting the big toe loose a little bit can be nice, paired with a recovery slide or mule here. What else do we have? We've got all Injinji. Let's go on to Creepers. One of my favorite wacky colors here. This is called Lichen Up. Lichen is, I guess, green like moss, but this is a quite green color here. Creeper socks tend to be, I find, again, 100% merino wool here. They tend to be a little bit softer than the merino of the Injinji socks. I don't know, it has a softness or smoothness to it where this one has a little bit more texture. I vary between both of them. This sock feels, I would say, super comfortable. I even wore this in my Norda 005s, my US 10.5 Norda 005, where I have a little extra volume in the toe box, and it felt great with this sock. Creeper socks here, super durable. Phil Gore, athlete, Backyard Ultra, he wears these for his Backyard Ultras multiple days here. You can see how you have the stretch support around the foot, breathable panels up front. I'm trying to pull out. Again, the toes are on these Creeper socks, I find, are just the right length. Some of the Injinji models, the toes can be a little bit short, and I know that Creepers works because I talked to Sean from Creepers, and he sends me some information about how they tweak the length of this or that toe just a tad for better fit. So I know they are paying close attention, whereas it seems like sometimes with the Injinji socks, the toes are always like kind of uniform. These tend to have a little bit of a longer toe. Perhaps not as durable as some of the Injinji socks, but you have to take care of them, wash them, line dry them, all that kind of stuff. You're trading perhaps slight amount of durability in the long term for like very soft comfort here. Speaking of comfort here, this is another model they sent me. This is a boot model from Creepers, so same setup with Creepers, but I've heard that hikers were requesting this. This has quite a thick heel, so if you like a toe sock for hiking and you like the soft feel of Creepers, it's pretty much the same in the front of the toe box, but the heel is definitely thick. This is, again, another one for winter, cold weather running, or even hiking. Moving on, we have Over the Calf from Injinji. Again, it's so warm here. Have not tried these out yet. Again, still in the package. This is an Over the Calf sock from Creepers here. This is about the same width, I would say, as the Lichen Up. doesn't have the super padded heel of this one right here, but if you want that little extra coverage for warmth in cold weather and maybe you don't particularly need that extra heel, you got the standard kind of creeper mid-weight sock here in a longer length. I think that about, what do I got? Oh, I have one more from Compressport here. This is the trail model. Something interesting I thought to point out, they have these dots here. I'm not 100% sold on these. Sometimes I wear these just to kind of match the color, but again, it could be something to try if you want to eliminate friction in certain areas. They have varying models with varying levels of dots. They have some dots around here to protect the heel, similar to, or to protect the ankle bone, similar to the Sidas socks. And they also have these kind of balls around the Achilles. So if you have issues with heel rubbing and stuff like that, this could be a model to try out. I have a white version that's more of a road version, and when I had the Hoka ORA EXT that was grading my heel, I did all of my treadmill runs. I would try to wash them, and I would try to do all my treadmill runs in that white Compressport sock with the Hoka ORA EXT with the bad heel. So there may be something to these little bumps around the Achilles or heel area that could maybe reduce any kind of friction from a high-ish Achilles collar there. These are nice. I mean, they feel good. It's a thin, it's a different kind of feel. Again, anatomical, left and right socks here. They hold the foot really well, but then you have those bumps, like kind of on the front, kind of on the, it's just a unique kind of feel. So something to try out if you're interested. I think that about covers it. Oh, what did I have? One more here. This is my Smartwool. This is a regular run sock from Smartwool. Coming back to the beginning here. This is similar to the Reflections print. Padded heel, padded toe. I did get questions about this actually in some of my reviews, so I probably should talk about this one. It's just similar to the Reflections print. It's just a standard basic sock, and this is another one coming back to the beginning that migrates from my regular sock drawer down to my ultra basement dungeon sock drawer there. And again, no damage anywhere in the sock, and I wear these every day all the time, walk around in the house with them when it's cold without slippers or anything, and they're just Smartwool, super durable. So if you want socks that are gonna just like last forever, Smartwool's a good way to go here. Thank you for tuning in once again. I hope this was useful, enjoyable, maybe not enjoyable, but at least informative for 2026. I'll have links down in the description below. Check out www.humblerunning.com. Again, I've got my newsletter there. You could sign up for 2026, something new. I have activated the paid subscriptions on my Substack page. So you could sign up to be a member. It is $5 a month. I think there's other yearly things. I know that could be a little bit of a lot, but I think it can serve some of you some value. As the main feature, I am going to offer direct access, direct questions via Substack chat messages to ask me anything you want. If you want advice about socks, advice about shoes, advice about racing, anything like that, I'm going to make it the case that going forward from 2026 on, the place that I will check first is my Substack chat. So if you do want that direct access, you have a question, I'm not trying to paywall anything by any means. I do not want to not answer questions across other platforms, but 2025 to 2026 was a huge year for Humble Running. I went from 0 followers to close to 4,000 at this point, and as you can imagine, the questions come like rolling in, whether that be in the comments, emails, Instagram, all that kind of thing. I do my best, as you can probably tell, to reply to all the comments, but it is becoming a little bit more tricky. The volume is increasing, so I just want to kind of have one spot where that'll be guaranteed. I know there's YouTube comments that I see that I realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to answer. I saw it, but sometimes they just like go away from my notifications and I never get back to it just by accident. I don't want that to happen in general. And I do want to give those that would like to have their questions answered an opportunity to guarantee that they will get to me. So you can sign up as a paid membership. This is completely optional, of course. I'm not at this point planning to have walled off content. May do some early access to some YouTube videos. I tend to make them like just before release or a few days before release. So a lot of these videos you'll see are pretty current. They're within a day or two of you seeing them on the channel itself. But I will perhaps send out an early link to those when it is the case that I have them prepared in advance, which is not generally the case. I will send that early link out to the paid members, and again, have your question answered. That's the main thing. So you can sign up for the newsletter or also sign up for the paid thing if you want to support Humble Running. It's just another way, again, if maybe you're not even interested in the questions, you just want to kind of support the channel, that would be cool too. So thank you for watching the Sock Roundup. Let me know if you want roundups on any other type of gear. I've got a lot of shoe testing to get done. So you're gonna see some pretty cool shoe testing in the near future. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you out on the trails, and then if we have any other good ideas for roundups, back out here.